Hi, I'm Jan.
And I'm Andrea.
Hi, and we're here
Marcelo.
for inaugural episode of talking to great, amazing customer success leaders. I've spent the last months talking to 50 plus customer success leader, and I'm amazed by the change in how they work, in how they need to operate, and this is what we want to talk about mostly.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that customer success is at an inflection point. That these best practices that we spent the past decade building and refining just aren't working anymore. And all of us are here trying to figure out what works and how do we continue kind of creating customer value and moving forward.
And that's why we decided to start this podcast. It's about sharing real-time learnings from the folks building the next generation of customer-facing teams. And with
Yeah, and
that,
I'm so excited that we get to start with Marcelo Bressan. He's led CS teams at emerging startups and as well as larger companies like VMware and Okta. And he and I have been chatting and sharing kind of our day-to-day as customer success leaders for the past few years. And I've been really, really impressed at his insight and how he approaches things and how he thinks through things. And I couldn't think of anyone better to be here and share that wisdom with all of you. So thank you, Marcelo, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be considered a CS leader and for you guys to have me here. I've worked with a lot of really good CS people, and so I learned a lot from them. I've seen people like really competent CS leaders running very large organizations. I've done it myself a few times, and very happy to talk through like what we learned, what works, what doesn't work in the process, so maybe people don't have to make the same mistakes. But yeah, very happy to be part of the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. One of the things I wanted to start with as we think about kind of the new normal of customer success, I think we have to first understand a little bit more about your team and how it works. And I know that's been quite a journey over the past few years. So curious to get everyone up to speed on Temporal and what you all do, but also how your team has evolved and how the value you've been driving has shifted.
Yeah, I think Temporal and a few other companies I work for, like Nicira, that got acquired by VMware a while back. And so starting with the company at very early stage when the company is starting to build like a go-to-market function and a post-sales function to help customers use the product. Every one of them is very different from one another, but there are some common patterns. And I tend to enjoy that very early stage from 0 to 1. Temporal is a developer-focused company. This is my first real experience working for like a dev tool developer-focused company. So it's been humbling and a very great learning experience for me. I feel pretty honored to be like leading a team of incredibly smart people who are incredibly passionate about developer experience and Temporal and helping customers be successful with it. And this is a small team I joined. It was the fourth person. There was one person who basically started the team. Is pretty incredible. He hired two other people, and then I joined to help grow the team and build on his previous success and current success. And the team is about 20 people now. So, and it's been 3 years total. Every one of them was a little bit different.
Yeah. So you've gone from a couple, just a handful, to 20 in about 3 years. And I think the focus of the team has shifted a bit too.
Yeah, and I think we doubled since last December. So we're still in the like last wave of getting some newer folks ramped and still hiring and continue to building it up. But yeah, the first the first year was the core team was already in place. Temporal had just launched the Temporal Cloud product. The first thing that we had to focus on was the initial developer experience with new product. It's not as sophisticated as it is today. Documentation is not as comprehensive as it is today. So I think people were struggling quite a bit to get started. And so it was by looking at the activation numbers, what we consider activation, like someone has taken the time to go through an onboarding process, create an environment, share it, start producing and getting some value out of it. That number was less than what we anticipated in year one. So our focus ended up being a lot around that. Specifically, we had a team of folks that were basically just doing these 30-minute onboarding sessions, partnering with our sales team, and our sales team would, as soon as they sign up a customer, they would also sign them up for a onboarding session in which we would just do the whole walkthrough. That didn't take that much time. but then spend the last few minutes answering some questions that I think in hindsight tend to be like probably the most important part of it, because a lot of the like, I don't really understand this part, or I'm curious about this other part, is just seem to accelerate the experience. And the attach rate, so-called attach rate for that service ended up being like 1 in 3. And in about 6 months, we were like 2 out of 3 customers that were offered had an onboarding session, and we saw the numbers over a period of 5 or 6 months when we got really good about doing this a lot. Activation numbers up to 60% from where we started. So at that point, it's like, okay, mission accomplished. We need to sustain it. Other teams were helping us to like productize the onboarding session and create videos, and so the product was better. There's a lot more for people to ground themselves in that early experience. So I think it kind of stay that way, and we went on and focused on some other things. But that was a good year 1 for us.
Cool. And then, so onboarding focus on year 1, and then where did the target move to year 2?
Yeah, and in year 1 we were also kind of building our global capabilities. So from the start, you wanted to have a team that was 724, like could follow the sun easily. And, so this is a rough business. And so we wanted to just kind of smooth out the experience as much as possible. So we started 2 locations outside of the US to represent APJ and EMEA. And we had a core team in each one of them. Still a small team, but functioning as a global team. And as much as a global team, like, especially for the folks outside of the US, is a little bit isolated, that was, I think, what we needed to do as part of this function, developer success, just because we had customers all over the place, and customers need help, anytime, any given time during their days. But to answer your question, I think the next big problem was like getting really good about responding to customers and then tracking things. So I think we were still kind of building our chops as a developer support organization. So we really had to pivot to response times, quality responses, tracking tickets, started to measure customer satisfaction pretty consistently. So, and obviously, this was like system process, right? And get everyone behind it. Everyone excited about like getting really good at answer things very quickly and meaningfully, which is important. So that was a good 6 months, and then sustaining it, continue to grow the team as like a focus for the second year.
And maybe for context for people, I think the tagline for Temporal is "What if your code never failed?" which I think kind of explain also the high level of pressure around getting something that works 24/7 around the clock, right? If that's what you call your company, that kind of sets the tone for the customer success team or customer support and success team.
Yeah, Temporal sells reliability, right? So a durable execution, and therefore there's added pressure for us to make sure that our backend is very smooth, right? We have an incredibly passionate engineering team, which helps a lot. So gravity is on our side, and our numbers working with customers have helped as well. Like in terms of metrics, we hold ourselves to very high standards, and not everything is perfect, but we succeed as a team and we fail as a team. So if there's something that wasn't perfect, we review every single month. We follow up with every customer that didn't have a great experience with us. We learn from it, and next month we're at it again, right?
I appreciate that kind of iterative learning. What you just said also, we succeed or we fail as a team, focusing on learning together, growing together. And I think you hit some pretty impressive metrics with that. Was it above 95% CSAT?
Yeah, we hold ourselves to 95% CSAT. Zendesk's benchmark for SaaS companies of less than 500 people is 91%. So we're pretty much every month around or above 95%. Sometimes we got a month where we had like dozens of people responding and it's 100%. And that's a month to celebrate as like a perfect score. There are some months that, there are some difficulties and some, people run into some issues and the experience isn't great. And we go back and look and learn from it. And that's the way we do it. The other important thing is for people on that side of the business is, I think, especially if you're trying to build a really good experience from the start, not to think we hold ourselves accountable to meeting SLA response times and follow up. But the main thing is, besides doing that, above and beyond doing that, which is table stakes, is to provide value, right? There are different situations. So if a customer is having a problem on their end, they need help right away. It's important for you to acknowledge I'm here to help, and just give me more context about what you're looking at. Otherwise, I think it is important to take a few more minutes, understand what the customer is looking for, ask questions if you need to, have the right person address those questions. And by the time we get to speak with the customer, we're adding value, because people have very little tolerance if you're just trying to meet response time, but are not really helping.
Okay, and actually, I have a question around that. Do you make a strong distinction between support and success in the way you think about the team, or for you, they're blending over quite a lot in many ways?
Yeah, I think Temporal has a really good go-to-market strategy, has had it for some time, and sales, success, and support is quite blended. We do have different teams for each one of these segments. Dev success is really more focused on developer support. The team does a whole bunch, which is common. It was the case for me at ICR as well, in which you have to do more than just a traditional support. So we do a lot of advisories. The onboarding sessions was really just advisory. So this proactive technical conversations to help customers adopt the platform, and continue to be the case. So we do code reviews, implementation reviews, optimizations. And now we have different tiers of support products. So the higher you are, the more access you have to these things. But in general, we try to have all customers, no matter what support plan they are, to get through like initial stages of the product and going above and beyond what we consider traditional support. So that's blends a little into success as well.
Yeah, and it's striking to me too that you talk about focus on customer value and how that infiltrates all that you do. So often people think, okay, we're just responding to a support ticket, in quotation marks, just.
Yeah.
But if you do that, especially at earlier companies, and especially where the developers are the core of the value that you're driving, you can't just solve a technical problem. You're
Yeah.
having to understand the context.
This is how we measure a success in general. Some of our KPIs are associated with response times, but also CSAT, right? So a combination of them is what we're looking for, not one or the other. And if you think about things that we've done during the initial years, the focus changes quite a bit. So the way you measure things will change quite a bit. Sometimes it's how many of these sessions you're delivering, and what's the attach rate, and what's the impact on onboarding, what's the onboarding rate, 30, 60, 90 days. Some other times it's really just building this robust developer assistance engine that is successful in both meeting SLAs as well as hitting the CSAT scores as well.
Tell me a little bit more about what the metrics are that you're tracking and how you decided those were the right ones to track, maybe what you played around with, if there were some you started with and decided were not useful to you.
Yeah. Customer satisfaction is one that is definitely one of the most important ones, and rolls up to overall corporate metrics as well. Obviously, our core value is developer focus. So that's one that's been really important. But obviously, we track a bunch of other things in terms of like the response times. We also track like number of incidents per customers, how that progresses over time. We know that's a good leading indicator of like workload increase on our side, as well as potential burnout with the team. Is incidents, whether they're related to us or not, they will take a bunch of time, and it's stressful, and they're there to help. And there's a bunch of follow-ups that you have to do normally. So we know that that's impactful on the customer experience as well. So we track that. We also track, for example, number of tickets or support requests or questions, problems over time relative to the number of customers using the platform. And we do expect that to be flat or go down over time, just because the product has to be getting easier to use, better documentation, better, like AI assistance. Like in general, the experience has to be better, and we count on that to be able to grow in so it's a hybrid growth environment. It's the efficiency part is actually plays a very important role for you to be able to sustainably continue to grow the team at a reasonable rate.
And maybe a question for me, because this is one of the point where we see a divergence or a change in customer success. Do you have revenue metrics attached to you and your team in terms of expansion, or is that not part of your metrics?
Yeah, we certainly have revenue metrics as a company, not specifically associated with this team. We do have an impact on different parts of the business, so we keep track of that. I feel that, especially in these very early stages with these teams that are like above and beyond a specific function, to be flexible and to get people really excited about like doing really well in these metrics. And it's a little different than, for example, I ran larger customer success organizations where revenue metrics in terms of like adoption, revenue on top of it, growth are really important, right thing to have in place. Obviously sales, right? So traditionally very focused on revenue. As a company we are, but to us, it's really not the most important thing for our team. All the other things will come first.
And then maybe kind of through this experience and the others, what you found that works best in terms of setting those KPIs. I think you mentioned like you want the team also to be, wanting to perform well, and setting those KPIs is also one driver of that. Like it's not just measuring the number, it's also setting the tone of what the team should focus on and what great looks like. I'm just curious in things you've learned around managing KPIs, setting KPIs internally in terms of how much the team work or what the team does externally versus like the client answer to that. How do you manage that, or any things you've seen that works very well?
Yeah, I think it's important to get metrics not to be like a top down thing. I think it's really important for the team to have an identity. So, for example, at Temporal, the team is really known for having really high bar and like very high technical quality, in a team that's very responsive. So these things are like everyone is proud of that, right? So every month we work really hard to make sure that we meet those numbers, not for the sake of meeting those numbers, but because that's a representation of how well we do or don't in that space. But over time, I feel like it's important to get everyone behind those qualities and just being really proud, and everyone will work extra hard just to be at that level.
So often I talk to leaders, and I found this too as a leader, that you can set the best goals and manage really well and do all kind of the things that you need to be doing, but it also comes down to, especially in the early days of companies, who you have on the team. How have you thought about building that team in alignment with your mission, especially as that's changed or evolved?
Yeah, I mean, I think just building the team is, like I said, it's been like a big learning experience for me. A first time really in this space. I've seen iterations of this before where you're starting like a product category, and you don't really have a place to go and hire from. Like like it's not a well established profile. And it was the case for Nicira, as Nicira was doing like network virtualization at the time, so you can't really hire someone with that kind of background, couldn't at that time. So you hire people who have a networking background, hire people who have virtualization background, hire people who understand like distributed systems, and first and foremost, people who work well as a team, right? And so with that organic blend of skill set, then you evolve your skill set as a team to cover all these things. Each one individual is not going to cover it. Eventually they'll go up and learn the other parts of the business that is new to them. But the important thing is that they work very well as a team, right? It's just go back to what we were talking just before. The metric is a team metric, right? And so everyone is focused on like doing well as a team, right? So that environment is similar at Tempora as well. We're very lucky to hire really good talent. Other developers, for the most part, we hire former developers or developers who are looking to make a career change and help other developers instead. So in that case, it opens up a lot of like different horizons for them as well, in terms of like what else can they do in the world, how much can they increase the impact that they have, and just learn something different in their careers.
Great. And then just maybe then what are you looking for next? Like because it's a never ending change with the team and the company and the growth. What's the direction from that perspective? How does you think the team should evolve, or where do you
Yeah.
see the most next
Yeah.
critical hurdle, right?
Yeah. I think obviously for the last couple of years, there were a lot of changes introduced by AI, right? So we try to stay on top of it. And I know we'll talk a little bit about that. But in general, I think the mission of the team hasn't really changed that much, although the focus goes like in different places, and we try to close gaps as best as we can with the skills we have. But the core mission, which is help developers be successful with this tool, hasn't really changed. What changed with our learning is, okay, what kind of profile is more successful in this role? What are the things that you look for in someone who wants to work with other developers? Like their ability to learn, like people who are like really good communicators naturally, right? Those are things that we learned over time to vet out in the interview process to find the people who could do really well in this role, right? It's just setting them up for success, right? That's a responsibility we have as well. If it's not something we think strongly will work out, then we move on. But I think when we see the potential, we will we'll make that bet and take that leap of faith. And so far, it's worked out well for us.
I love that focus on the whole team, right? So often I think, how many customer success job posts and even customer support job posts have you seen that are like looking for a unicorn, right? Superstar, must have all the skills. And I think it really comes back to figuring out what you need as a team, enabling the team to work well together. And as you said earlier, that kind of you succeed or fail together. As you think about the next year of growth and development and change for the whole team, I think it sounds like your metrics and goals are probably going to stay pretty similar, but maybe some of how you operate, we're all looking at, hey, at what's ahead. How are you thinking about what's next for the team in general?
Yeah. I think as the company continues to scale, right? So it is our job to continue to scale, to make things easier for folks coming in, right? So every iteration of new hires we try to be better with onboarding and just kind of like better processes in general. Processes are really not supposed to be like a rigid framework. It's just basically something to orient folks and allow them to be successful without having to make too many decisions, right? But obviously AI has changed quite a bit. I think we hold ourselves to a decent productivity increase every year, like a 20%. I think earlier this year we measured to be well ahead of that. And to some extent, by having a team that's just a larger team, able to cover more ground, smart folks coming in as well as the ones who are here, but also using AI tools for different things. I don't think anybody can afford not to use AI tools these days, although we don't really make it a mandate, right? So the folks who come in, some of these folks are incredibly passionate about like solving a specific issue with some new AI tool. And all of the things that we have in place today were things that started from within the team. I think we have like 6 or 7 AI use cases today just for our team that are quite different from one another. So, for example, going from gather information to answer technical questions, all the way through analyzing metrics and doing a unbiased analysis of our KPIs at the end of each month, and telling us what we should be better, what things are going well, what things are not going well, as opposed to like someone who's responsible for that team doing that readout. And there's quite a bit of value in terms of like what works, what are the trends that you may not be seeing, and less bias a view of that. We do all the ticket categorization via AI. So, and started okay, but these days it covers pretty much 100% of tickets to the extent that you want, to the flavors that you want, with the like segmenting categories like as detailed as you want it to be. We saw that starting to work much better. I want to say like 6-8 months ago, which relieves the team of the burden of being categorizing each ticket, right? So it basically just do the work and document things well. From there, AI will take it and do product feedback based on this. So like our customer pain points are surfacing through like trends, we can easily quantify and have that conversation with our product and engineering teams. So it's good feedback. So we use it quite a bit. Like for doing this podcast, we use a lot of AI help, right, in terms of like organizing for it. And so is everything you do these days, right? So I feel like all of us do a lot more than we used to do a year ago. And we have to, it's like we don't have any more time because of it. We just have to do it just because the tools are out there, right? And things are getting to a much higher level. But I think the one point that I would say that for other managers who are trying to adopt AI, there are very different opinions about AI, right?
Yeah.
I guess it's probably not different in technical teams. So number one, we make sure that these are not mandatory. We have some really incredible, really smart people on the team who do amazing work and don't really use AI. Other folks, also equally smart, get organized through using different AI tools. And overall, that's a great thing for our team, right? Because we have a lot of things to help us in terms of tools, but it's not a mandate. The only thing that is a mandate is that AI is not a replacement for like our brains. We're still accountable for every answer we give. We're still accountable for like every point we make, every metric we deliver. Like all of these things have to be all reviewed by a human. And at the end, we're doing a very personal service. And it has to be something that comes from us. AI may help us understand something, but will not do the job for us.
And maybe a bit controversial. Do you see these kind of activities I can delete from a human? Or because I think that's a bit like as you said, like everyone has a different perspective, and there is definitely perspective where people look at functions and jobs and they're like, Well, that I will remove the human component from. But again, like I think to your last point, that's probably not how you think about it. But do you have a sense of where you want it to apply, or does that come organically from the team, or do you still have things where you're like, yeah, I know in ticketing we can probably get level 1 automated at some point, and that's a target for us next year. Yeah, just curious on how you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, personally, I mean, people have different opinions of AI, and to be honest, I mean, it's kind of taking over the world, and who knows where it's going to get. So, who am I to know where this thing is going to take us? What I know is it's helped us so far. I have not seen it replace humans effectively. I've seen it helping humans be more efficient, right? Everywhere in every single function, but not the other way around. So my personal belief is that's what I'm working with today. So that's what I, like we try to do. And in terms of focus, the start of it is always organic, but we do have to make decisions as a team as to where we invest our time. So for example, if someone has an idea, okay, well, let's use a new AI tool to do a lot of the troubleshooting analysis for tickets coming in. So remove some of the repetitive work that we do on the back end. Well, we take a look at how much work that's going to save, and as a team decide, okay, well, this person is going to be spending a little more time on this the next couple of months as an investment. So to that extent, I think we're trying to make the best decisions where to apply, because you can't do everything. But in general, I think it's very, very real time where you see the opportunities. And these products, like for example, the first time we tried answering technical questions with the products that were available, we failed completely, right? It was a bit of a disaster. And what we learned is that the products that we were trying to use are just not ready. This is maybe 2.5 years ago. But 6 or 8 months later, there was a new wave of products that were doing much better and could use a lot more sources. They can synthesize information better, and it's still not a replacement for you not to have your documentation. Again, the human aspect, right? So AI is really good to surface answers or recommendations for things that exist. It doesn't come up with it on its own, or at least to that extent is not doing that. And so we rely on having really good documentation, having troubleshooting documentation, and things that are ultimately produced and reviewed by humans so that AI can help us be more efficient to find it.
It's super interesting how you talk about how some things just didn't work at the start. Some of it because the technology wasn't quite there. Maybe some of it also it's learning about implementation. And I think so often there's these big reports that come out that 95% of AI implementations fail. And I think most of what we do in startups and in business, it's not about getting it right on the first try. It's about that iteration. I really like how you talk about the team culture and getting everyone to experiment in a way that's organic and not forced. Um, if you were to talk to somebody who's early on in their AI journey and early on in figuring it out for their teams, what, I don't know, 3 tips would you give them? Where would you tell them to start, or what mistakes don't you want them to make?
Yeah, I think we'll start with not so good news. I think there's a lot of catching up to do, right? Because starting right now with AI is a little bit late, but better late than never. And I think what helps us being open to what are the things that I'm really proud of. As an example, I don't know, if I write articles really well, right? So I have the capability, the superpower, I consider that a superpower, not me specifically, just an example. Again, these days there are things that can, with just a little bit of information, write an article that's, I don't know, 90% as good. So if you have that kind of superpower, you're still a better judge, you can still make that thing work faster for you just because of your superpowers. I would recommend folks to just be open to see what it can do for you and what it can do for your team. And just understand, this is a very sensitive or controversial topic, right? Some people will have different degrees of acceptance. So I feel like anything that feels like a mandate, like you have to do this, I think it works less well. So just giving folks and the opportunity to choose where to go, or as a team or as an individual, choose where you make the investments and the trade-offs you make. So I think it's really important. Yeah, and I believe when I see it, I haven't seen it replace a human, so I think we're still partnering with AI to do things better, more efficiently, not being replaced by it.
And as a follow-up on that, you work with very technical teams, so I'm guessing their ability to think about these tools is also at a slightly different level by nature of the fact that they're technical. What's the most crazy or surprising proposal you've seen come from the team? Just kind of like a proposal where everyone stopped for a second thinking, what? You think we could do that?
I don't know. I don't know if I have a good example for that. Maybe I can offer where I have been like mostly surprised is just like personally using things, for example, Notebook LM to do like podcasts on specific topics, right? Learning from it, trying things out. For example, if I wrote a document, I want that to tell me back what the document sounds like. I will pay attention to the tone and just kind of learn from it. Or if I want to replace an analysis by just using a podcast that's created by AI and picking up on just the little nuances of points that AI makes based on the points you have, that amplifies it sometimes, reduces it some other times, skips it. So I learned a lot from it by doing that. And that's very counterintuitive because that's very much a human thing, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets surprised every day. So for me, I think just having someone who can produce a podcast based on documents or notes or those kind of things, and use that as an alternative for reading, I think it's pretty powerful.
I think to your point, like if you haven't started, you should, but still everyone's shifting their usage all the time. I think you were saying what didn't work 6 months ago can work now.
Something even more surprising out there that I haven't tried yet.
But I think that's the point of it, right? Everything's moving so quickly, and the people that I find getting stuck in starting are trying to have it all mapped out initially. We need a whole AI strategy, and I think what works is a lot of what you described. It's starting, trying it out, finding a use case and being like, I wonder if AI can help with this, and seeing what it can do. That's the way of the future, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to feed the transcript of this podcast down to you so you get a different version of it from a tonality standpoint. So you can listen to it again and get insights. Marcelo, I think we're running on time here, and I think we can maybe conclude on that. I wanted to thank you a lot for the time. I learned a lot around team and team dynamics. I think that was, for me, that on a conversation where we talk about AI and we talk about customer success, ultimately, I think the learning I had from our discussion is that it's down to the team. And it's down to how you make the team evolve and how you make the team feel ownership around what they do. And I think that was really interesting insight from my side.
I was going to ask if I could ask a question to both of you, and I think Jan already answered. It was like one or two things that kind of stood out for you in our conversation. Maybe I can ask Andrea what were one or two things that were important for you.
Yeah, for me as well, it was some of what we said at the end, right? That need to be iterative in your approach to doing AI, and also the evolution of your team. I think as customer success evolved and customer support evolved, we started having these very clear definitions of what success should be at a thought leadership perspective that never really mapped up to what the teams were doing. And I think that can either yield tension, or it can, when met with curiosity and that iterative mindset and approach, can actually yield really interesting things. And it's been fun watching you over time, and then hearing again as we summed up the past few years in this short conversation, just what that journey looks like. You make it sound so easy in this quick summary. Yep, we're going to do this, and now we're going to do that, and look at all the change that we had in a year. But really that looking at what's working, what's not, do the job that needs to get done, focus on it, measure it, and then move on to what needs to get done next, and doing that elegantly, and bringing the team along for that. I know it's hard when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, it certainly, I think as I was talking through this, I certainly felt like this is a lot easier talking through than actually doing it. It definitely wasn't easy, right? And it's the work of everyone on the team. I don't really say my team in general, just like I'm part of the team. I manage the team, but I'm just one more person trying to help make the company successful. But in the end, I think there's a lot that goes into it. And as we're in hindsight, just talking through things, you tend to not capture all of the things that we tried. It didn't work. Some of the frustrations. So yeah, it's easier talking through it for sure.
I'm sure there's plenty of restless nights and trying to run the clock around the world to make sure things work out and things like that. Awesome. Thanks so much, Marcelo.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah.
Thank you
Appreciate
both.
it.
This has been a fantastic conversation, and I'm excited to share it with more people.